Welcome back, everyone. It's really exciting to have y'all. I'm heading over to the WSOP right about now when I'm done making this intro because we're playing the mystery bounty. And if you guys have been keeping up with the news, the wait's been kind of ridiculous. So let me get my happy ass over there. $1,000 buy-in, our very first tournament of the summer. I can't tell you how excited I am. Let's head over now. Wish me some run good. It's been over a year since I've sat down to play a tournament, and here we are at the World Series of Poker in 2023. First event on my list is Mystery Bounty, $1,000 to enter for your chance at 3 separate $1 million prizes. This is a really exciting moment for me, so let's get right into things. I'm going to be late regging this tournament, as I will be doing for most of the events this year. Level 8 is where I find myself playing my first hand of note. It's going to be $1,200 big blind and $600 small blind. There's always going to be a big blind any that matches what the big blind is, so just to let you guys know moving forward. I decided to open it up with 2,600, sitting on about a 30k stack or so. Our opponent from the big blind makes a call, and we flop top 2 pair on a super dry board texture. He checks to me. I go ahead and down bet here a little bit to 1,800. He makes a call. The turn card looks pretty inconsequential to me as it comes to deuce of diamonds. Our opponent has about 18,000 in his stack total. My goal is to get all of it in the middle by the river. I bet 5,000, and out of nowhere, he decides to go all in for 18,000. We snap call, beat him in the pot, and he shows 10 deuce for the middle and bottom pair. Our top 2 is going to be better. The runouts comes with the 5 of hearts in the river, and just like that, we win a massive pot to get us over the hump early.
Quickly want to let you folks know something fairly important. I'll be playing on the Hustler live stream this Thursday, which is tomorrow. I'm going to be giving away a percentage of myself for free, so hopefully this time around I can book a win and give y'all some free monies. The only way you guys can win this is by liking, commenting, and subscribing to this channel, and specifically this video. I'll be giving away 1% of whatever my winnings are to one of you lovely folks, and I'll be giving away a separate percentage to channel members and channel members only. So again, if you guys would like that, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It'll mean a lot to this little booger here. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys Thursday at the Hustler.
Some of these videos will just be all-ins that I capture a little bit after the fact. Again, I don't have a portable charger here, so I'm just doing my best with what I got in front of me. Don't want my phone batteries to die, but here we are, level 9. Some time has passed. These are 30-minute levels. Things are going rapid fire. Once again, we're at that 1,500 big blind level, and I look down at Big Slick, baby. I go and raise it up to 3,000 chips. The button makes a call, and then the big blind throws in the 3-bet for 15k. This opponent is definitely going to be playing face up. First 3-bet I've seen all day, so it's screaming strength. My hand's a little too good to do anything besides go all in here. A 4-bet jam can do a lot of things, including getting slightly better hands to fold, like 9s, 10s, or jacks. And all of that being said, this is just a cooler spot if it is. I go and go all in for 51,500 chips. The action folds on the button, and then the action's over to the big blind, and this hand is actually covered on Poker News. Really exciting to say the least, but here we are when the big blind Sai calls it off with pocket queens. If there's ever been a classic race in this world, a suited ace-king versus pocket queens, this is the most even fair fight we're going to look at. The flop comes out giving me almost too many outs, as it gives me a gutter ball to the straight as well as the nut flush draw. The turn is a deuce of diamonds. Things begin to look a little grim and bleak, but the river card comes with 3 of spades. Just like that, we find ourselves another massive double up. Under the gun goes ahead and raises it to 3.5k at the 1,500 big blind level. I'm in the hijack, and I look down at pocket kings, baby. I go ahead and make this a 3-bet to 11,000. Again, I'm sitting on about a 100k stack. The small blind 4-bet jams for 13k, 2k more for me to go. And after a little bit of thinking, our under the gun player decides to fold. I go ahead and make the easiest call of my life. Our opponent shows ace-queen offsuit, and once again, we're off to the races. The flop comes out 9 high, turns of 5 pairing the board, and the river comes clean. Just like that, 135,000 chips have come. Let's hope they're not gone anytime soon. After a quick break, we find ourselves at level 10. Some time has passed, but our cards are still looking the same. Early position makes it 5,000 to go, and I'm in the hijack, and I look down at Big Slick once again. Well, luckily for us, we're staying hot, and we're playing our heater. I 3-bet to 14,000, a little bit on the smaller side, I think, but seems okay. Once again, I'm super rusty. I'm not a tournament player whatsoever. The cutoff cold calls, an OMC for sure, so this is absolutely pocket jacks or pocket queens or pocket 10s, and no set, no bet. I've been around these streets. The initial raiser calls as well, and the flop comes out pretty dismal as it comes 7-6-5. Under the gun decides to start a little lead here for 20,000. The effective stack is the OMC to my left, sitting about 60k. I can do nothing here besides go ahead and make the fold, which I do. The opponent on my left snap jams for 60,000. The small blind thinks about it for some time before eventually throwing his cards in the muck, face up, pocket nines. The cutoff shows, drumroll please, pocket jacks. No bit of surprise there. Just happy to avoid the landmine. Well, if we can beat pocket jacks in the last hand, hopefully we can win with him. I go and raise to 4,000 at the 2k big blind level. The button does have me covered in this following hand. We're playing somewhere in the neighborhood of about 115,000, 120,000 chips. The big blind also makes a call, who has around 30,000 chips, and we're going off to a flop where I still end up with an overpair as well as a gutter ball. Super dynamic board texture here as it's fairly connected and flush draws are available. I don't have that jack of diamonds. I go and throw out a small c-bet of 5,000. I don't know how much I love it. Probably checking's fine, but both players call nonetheless. And the turn card is one of the worst in the deck as it comes a king of diamonds, improving a ton of hands that are calling on the flop to 2 pair, as well as bringing in the obvious flush. At this point, we have a pretty easy spot where we just checked the in-position player, another older gentleman who just throws out a big bet here for 25,000. Can't do much here besides fold when it's folded over to me. Unfortunate there, but again, feels like I'm just avoiding landmines at this point. Luckily, we're at a new blind and a new hand, and under the gun, that older player that we were talking about earlier decides to raise it up to 6.5k. Pretty big raise here when the action's on me in the big blind. I look down at an ace-10 of spades. I can 3-bet, but against this large sizing, feels like it's an obvious overpair we're going to have to crack. And we're going off to a flop here that comes out. Queen Jack, 6 with 2 spades. We flop ourselves a royal draw. I check it over to my opponent, who throws out a small bet here for 6,000. I think at this point, if he happens to have a pen like jacks or queens, seems like a lot of money is going to get in the middle. So I go ahead and just throw out a raise here for 17,000. He calls. A little worrisome now. We're going to have to get there, and the 4 of hearts is not a way to get there. At this point, I feel like keeping the aggressions probably makes the most sense. Once again, we're trying to target those pocket 10s, ace jack suited, and pocket 9s. I make it 15,000, and he calls pretty quickly. I decide at this point that if I don't make it on the river, I think I just got to shut it down. It feels like there's a chance he has aces or kings here as well. So when the river card comes in, black 8 of clubs. Unfortunately for me, that'll do it with this hand. I go and check it. He checks it through pretty quickly and shows pocket kings. So we were never, under any circumstances, against this player type, going to get him to fold. So happy to just give up there. By this point, we've been free falling from 140k at our highest point down to 70,000. Not going out well here, but here we are in the same level. The cutoff jams all in for 19,500. That is significantly less than 10 big blinds. And when the action folds over to me here on the button, we look down at ace jack offsuit. Against an 8 big blind shove, it seems like a decent spot to isolate. With about 77,000 in front of me, I go ahead and jam all in. Then the worst thing that can possibly happen happens. The small blind, the older gentleman, is now thinking about it. Oh my God. We're literally stone dead if this opponent makes a call. The point of rejamming here is to get him to fold a hand like ace queen or pocket 10s or pocket 9s. And after a really long thought, luckily for us, he ends up folding it. And then it's on the big blind, who says, he's got a tough spot too, and then folds ace jack of diamonds face up. That's pretty bad. Luckily for us, we are still ahead when the cutoff decides to show king deuce offsuit. All right. Going off to a flop here with the advantage until not so much. When the flop comes out, king, queen, king. He just flops trips. We're like almost dead here. And to make that even worse, our opponent folded 2 10s in the small blind. But you guys have been here before. Look, on the count of 3, if you guys can hit the like button, I can promise you the 10 will come out in the turn. You guys will just make it happen. 1, 2, 3. Wait, you didn't click it. Click it. There you go. The turn is a miraculous 10 of clubs. Somehow, some way, we have ended up with the nuts straight until the river brings a 10 of diamonds. Oh my God, I just needed 110. Guys, you clicked the like button too much. What the heck? Oh no. What a roller coaster of a hand. Nearly $50,000 there in the pot. And just like that, I'm down to around 50,000 chips. What can go worse? As the lovely Mary Poppins once said, What helps most than a spoonful of sugar? Help the medicine go down. Right now, the medicine would be some more chips. In this next hand, early position just open rips it all in for 30,000 chips. It's the same player from the last hand, and I am here sitting with pocket Kirons, baby. Let's go! Oh my goodness, I'm licking my lips. I go all in as well. The small blind thinks forever and then eventually decides to fold ace queen. Big blind folds as well. We're going off to a run out against ace jack. Dealer, keep it clean. 9-7-5 on the flop. And then the return comes a king of clubs, locking it up. River's a brick, baby. And just like that, back up to 90,000. We have saved ourselves from free falling. It's looking like that bit of sugar wasn't enough. When this next hand, the action folds to the small blind, who tank puts in 25,000 of his total 33,000 chip stack. There's no ICM here. This is a really weird situation. I can barely get my head around it if I'm being honest, but here we are. After that Euro decides to do that, we look down at pocket kings. I mean, if there's ever been a miracle, it's right here. We snap go all in. Our opponent calls it off, obviously, and we're up against 7-6 of hearts, pocket kings, pocket Kirons. The flop comes out, ace, king, deuce. Oh, yes. Turns a jack of hearts. We now have a sweat, no heart dealer, and the 10 of spades falls on the river. Wow. Somehow we're back up to 130,000 chips once again.
Technically, I have made it to my second break of the day, but I think it's the third break of the, I don't know how long we've been playing, but it's level 12 just ended. We're going to go into level 13. We have 4 more levels until we finish or go to dinner. I don't even know when late registration's over. The big blind we're going to be heading back into is going to be like 3.5K or something like that. We're sitting on about 135K, a really swingy tournament. We bought in, down at 30, up to 60, up to 140 or something, down to 50 again, a 70, and now we're back at 135. So anyways, swingy session, not much more to talk about outside of that. So let me go back to enjoy my session and make sure my phone doesn't get stolen, which is right here charging.
To be quite frank, it seems like the walk over here to the Paris has completely thrown me for a loop, as I hardly know what the hell I'm doing in this next hand. So I will genuinely ask you folks, how would you have played this hand? It's now level 13, some time has passed with a 4K big blind level. I'm sitting on somewhere in the neighborhood of 115,000 chips, and I look down at pocket jacks from the low jack. I raise it up to 8,000 chips, and then the big blind makes the call, having me covered. The flop comes out 8 high, and my opponent throws out a little bit of a lead for 5,000. This is probably not a donk lead, as this is a very, very strong, capable European player of sorts. So a little worrisome, as don't really know what I'm doing in tournament poker. So much so that I throw out a raise that feels like a sizing is a little incorrect here. I make it 20,000 to go. After talking to some friends, it seems like this is far too large, but c'est la vie. Our opponent makes a call, and the flop, or the turn card I should say, comes out the deuce of spades, bringing a backdoor flush draw, but changing nothing to the board texture. At this point, my opponent checks in flow now, and then I leave myself with about 85 chips, 85,000 chips behind. The pot is about 60,000, and I just go all in. I don't know why I do this, to be quite honest. I feel like I'm playing this like I was, I don't know, just a super old school player looking to get the pot down, but there's still tons of value to get. Hands like 8-9, ace-8 suited, 6-7. All these hands are going to call another street of betting. So I think I missed an opportunity to go for a smaller bet. Some are half pot or slightly less. So our opponent tanks forever and then decides to inevitably fold. So obviously we had the best hand, but it feels like we significantly overplayed it and got near the lowest amount of value. Once again, things are moving quickly. With these 30-minute big blind levels, things are changing rapidly, so much so that the 5K big blind is now out, and the 500 chips are no longer in play. The action folds to the button, who decides to go all in for 70,000 chips, and by some miracle, I look down at the ladies. Easy spot for us to go and rejam, which I do for 130K. The big blind gets out of the way, and somehow we are up against pocket sevens. Once again, we're hoping to keep this clean, and sure enough, it does. It comes out ace-king high. The turns of 5 in the river is a 4. There is no 7 to be seen. And just like that, we're up to over 200,000 chips with a shot and an opportunity at the $1 million prize. All right, so this is by far and away the hand of the tournament. We've got a lot to go over, so let's go into this next hand. Some time has passed. It's level 15 with a 6K big blind. We're starting off this journey with about 240,000 chips in front of me when the biggest stack of the table decides to open it up under the gun to 12,000. Action folds to me on the button, and we look down at old trusty pocket Kirons. We decided 3-bet for a really small sizing that I realize in hindsight is an error. I make it 28,000 chips to go. Only the opponent from the initial raising position calls, and the flop comes out 9 high. A little bit of a kind of connected, whatever. This is a lot going on this board. When the action checks to me, I decide to check this back. This is obviously the first error in the hand. I think we've definitely got to be betting here. Either way, the turn card comes out a 3 of spades, bringing a backdoor flush draw and bringing some more straight cards. At this point, my opponent decides to lead out for a bet of 30,000, a bit on the larger side. I think about it for some time and decide to just call. Once again, in hindsight, feels like a raise in an order, but it is what it is. We're going off to the river card. I'm just praying for no spade, no jack, and it comes a jack of spades. My least favorite card in the deck. Our opponent decides to go all in for over pot for 180,000 chips. And this is where the tanking begins. To kind of make this all make sense here, I just can immediately discount 6-7 suited from our opponent. Again, a really strong thinking player. I don't know how often, even with the big stack, he's opening from under the gun and calling a 3-bet with a hand like 6-7. Let's say half the time he does. So we can give him like 2 times he will have that specific hand. But I think a lot of his hands are going to have spades here, to be quite honest. And I think that a hand like pocket jacks can go for big value on this river as well. The problem here is that his range has significantly become more polarized. And no matter how good these players are, it feels like the inevitable is here. I just don't believe that people are bluffing often enough here to make this a profitable call. As ridiculous as that sounds and as good as my hand is, I don't like the fact that I don't have the king of spades, as I just don't block any of his bluffs here on the turn that end up making it here on the river. A lot's going through my head, and to be quite honest, it feels like it's pocket nines, pocket jacks, or some hand like 7-8 of spades or some sort, like a combo draw that ends up getting there with spades on the river. After a really long tank and 180,000 chips behind, I realize that if I fold here, I still have a shot if I continue to grow. I make one of the toughest folds I've ever made in my poker career, and I'm really not exaggerating. I'd love to hear in the comment section down below what you guys would have done differently and if you guys would have made the same fold. And I promise at the end of the episode, I'll let you guys know what our opponent had. Once again, we are tangling with the big stack. When I look down at ace-queen offsuit here at level 16, 8K big blind, I make it 16,000 to go from early position. Only the button big stack player makes a call. We're going off to a flop that looks delicious. We flop top. There's a flush draw out there, pretty coordinated, pretty wet. I throw out a small c-bet of 16,000 to which my opponent makes a call. The turn card at first sight is a little worrisome as it comes out the jack of hearts. But in reality, I mean, if anyone's going to have ace-king, it's me. It's definitely not going to be my opponent. Sure, sometimes he can have a hand like 8-9, but in reality, I've still got to be betting for value. We can still get value from pair plus straight draws, a hand like 10-9 suited, a hand like king-queen suited. All of those hands are going to be calling bets. So I just had to size up a tad bit, going for 45,000. Our opponent goes into the tank before eventually deciding on a fold. Happy to take the pot down nonetheless.
All right, going to the back here. Shout out to Jeremy. He's one of the giveaway winners from a couple years ago. You're an alum.
Yes.
Here we are going to dinner back. I think this is where you see Daniel run around. I'm going to talk to you guys more at dinner. I got a lot going on in my head though. Okay, so finished up dinner and yet again another very swingy, like 8 levels or whatever it is. We're sitting on about 300 some odd K, 305 or 310 or whatever. Ended up making a really big fold with kings, and luckily enough, the gentleman was kind enough to tell me that he made a flush. So played the hand bad. Either way, ended up losing the minimum somehow. Now we're going back, 30 big blinds and a dream.
Right after dinner break, we see that we're getting close to money. We're doing our very best to take advantage of that. We've definitely chipped up here when the money bubble eventually burst, guaranteeing us a $61 profit. But we're here playing for the bounties and much more. Locking in here in this next hand is level 17, 10K big blind, when the cutoff bigger stack decides to open at 22K. I'm in the big blind. I look down at a suited ace 8 of clubs. Feels like an easy spot to just 3 bets. but I play this little cue and decide to just call. The flop comes out giving me top pair, but again, very coordinated, very wet textured, and very much so favoring my opponent. I took it over to him. He decides to down bet for 15k. We got an easy spot to just call. We're going off to a river card, or a turn card, I should say, rather. It comes up 5 of hearts. Shouldn't change much of anything here. When my opponent decides to start another bet for 40,000, a little worrying, but hand's too good to fold. I make the call. The river card is not a great one as it comes at 10 of clubs. A lot of his semi-bluffs somehow end up there for sure. And even more so, just not great. Never going to get value from worse. And if he bets, we just have an easy fold. Luckily for us, he ends up checking it through. I announce an ace, and like a kid on Christmas Day, he is jubilant when showing his ace-5 offsuit. We end up losing a pretty big pot here, nearing a very important part of the tournament. Feels like the only one we can blame here is not the dealer, not the poker gods, but ourselves for not 3-betting pre-flop.
Mystery bounty players, congratulations on your net making money.
Once again, we have another table change. These players are flying down like flies. 773 were min cashing, and now if you look up the board, there's under 600 players remaining. In this following hand of note, we have another fun one. We're under the gun player Brian Altman. Honestly, I don't remember his name, but he's some World Series of Poker or World Poker Tour superstar, multiple time champion, raises it up to 32,000 off about a 200k stack. I have him just barely covered by 10 or 20,000 chips. When the action folds to me in the small blind, we look down at pocket nines. Look, am I super excited about getting my tournament life in the middle all in against a really small open from an opponent who has a really small stack? Probably not, but this hand is just obviously too good to ever fold. If I'm folding here, I mean, I'm just playing like scared money. My goal here is to get a clean double up and fight my way through to day 2. I go ahead and go all in here, having my opponent slightly covered. The big blind folds, and then the action's back to Mr. Altman, who thinks about it for some time. Seems like he's trying to figure out a count, if he'll have chips remaining. Eventually he finds out that he won't have chips remaining, and he decides to call off his tournament life. He flips over ace-jack offsuit, and we have a pure race. We've been running good in these all day, and after playing at least fairly decent poker, it feels like, or at least good enough to get us here, our entire session, 12 hours of play, comes down to one flip. My heart is beating. It's been a long time since I've had an opportunity like this, and we're going off to a run out. And unfortunately for us, almost immediately, my heart sinks when I see the ace of spades on the window, followed by a queen and an 8. The turn card comes a queen of diamonds. We are now down to our last 2 outs for our tournament life, and the river card comes the king of clubs. I'm going to be honest with you guys, that one really, really hurt. Words cannot express how exciting this tournament was, and I hope it was for you guys to watch. So, our day comes to a close. A little depressing for sure, but I'm really happy with how far we came, with how little experience we had.
I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed.
That will do it for here on the Tournament Grinder. That will bring today to an end. A really long day. We got into here like level 5 or so. I don't even remember, honestly. Ended up busting around 10:30-ish. So played for, I don't know, like 10 hours, 9 hours. I don't even know what I profited, but I know it's like, I'm not even exaggerating, like pebbles, because it's a mystery bounty. With the amount of rake that they took, we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of like maybe a $150 win or something. So hey, it is a positive. That's the one thing. It is for sure guaranteed profit. Just still unfortunate to things to pan out the way they did. Obviously me being outside means I busted. I had 19k left in my stack. Ended up losing that jack 6 versus ace queen. I had one big blind. That was close, but unfortunately just couldn't muster up a win. Sorry about it being so dark here. We're currently on the outskirts here of the Paris. That'll do it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys like tournament style vlogs, I know it's not super popular, but it means a lot to me that you guys still watch and drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Outside of that, I'll see you guys on the felt or the virtual felt on Splash Squads. Have a lovely day. I love you guys all. See you soon. Deuces.
Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed.